So who were some of your preaching mentors?
I don't know if you would know this name. He's deceased. Bishop Benjamin Reed. I don't know if you knew him. He was originally from Pittsburgh, and when I was in elementary school, he went to seminary there. And we lived near the seminary, and he would come by our house, and my mother would fix food for him. And I don't know where his family was, but he was kind of on his own. And she would, some mend his buttons and do things and help, and he'd go back off to class. And he was just a powerful influence. He's deceased now. My pastor then was Pastor Morgan, and he had been a military chaplain. He was a PhD, extremely academic. Then my grandfather was an apostolic pastor from a small movement. And so there's that family, he had the unction, and then there was I think the intertwining with the theology and the studying. And then later, while we were in California in the earlier years, these names, I'm not using titles, but E.K. Bailey and Sam Proctor would come through the auditorium, and great preachers would come through the area. And then I was later influenced, is this too many? By a missionary who was just recently deceased, and that's Vera Boudreau's, a Haitian missionary. Let's see. And then for a while I traveled. It was a very different experience for me with Ernestine Reams, along with about 10 or 12 young women. We were on the road from the late 80s through the 90s. When at that time, I had the largest women's conference. 4,000 to 5,000 was a big deal in the African American community. So that was another flavor, another bit of seasoning. And the list goes on. And certainly I'd be remiss on more than one end to say that from a distance, my current pastor, I think, has had a shaping influence on leaders across this country.
So you're talking Bishop Jakes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So can you go back and talk a little bit about this traveling with Ernestine
Sure.
Reams?
I don't remember the exact year that it began, but she pulled together a real visionary. Her roots were in Church of God in Christ. Mine were in the Wesleyan Holiness Movement. And she pulled together an array of women. It's all right to call some of those names. Claudette Copeland, Millicent Hunter, was then Millicent Thompson, and Iona Locke, Pat McKinstry, the wife of Bishop Darrell Hines. She was kind of like the little sister, the baby girl on the whole trip. Bishop Barbara Amos, and there are probably one or two more that I'm forgetting, but that's the core group. I'm trying to think of who else. And she would have annual conferences and sometimes intermittent meetings, but primarily we would do the workshops and the seminars, and those who really were the key voices would carry the night services. But she drew to those conferences, or the Lord drew, women from all kinds of experiences. And I think it was the beginning of that hunger that existed before the days of A Woman Thou Art Loose. I think there were strengths and weaknesses to that, but it was really molding in my life because it exposed me to a mix of women who were powerful, who were independent thinkers, who were self-starters. At that time, I believe Christine Liddell was also her primary assistant. I believe that Bishop Barbara Amos and I were the only ones, of course with Pastor Reams, we were the only ones pastoring. The others were all evangelists at that time. I think all of them now are in some form probably of pastoring, or they've left the pastorate.